Libertatem simulacrum, libertatem simulacrum, libertatem simulacrum, libertatem. Libertatem simulacrum, ecum pere mori conatur. Libertatem simulacrum, ecum pere mori conatur. A shar is a day, not a year. A shar is a turning of the stars. A shar is a day, not a year. A shar is a turning of the stars. Just passing through. Just passing through, just passing through, just passing through. A shar is a day, not a year. A shar is a turning of the stars. A shar is a day, not a year. A shar is a turning of the stars. Just passing through. Just passing through. Just passing through. Just passing through, just passing through. Libertatem simulacrum, ecum pere mori conatur. Libertatem simulacrum, ecum pere mori conatur. Libertatem simulacrum, Libertatem simulacrum, libertatem simulacrum, libertatem simulacrum, libertatem. libertatum simulacrum, e comere amori conatur. Oh, hey, oh. Libertatum simulacrum, e comere amori conatur. Oh, hey, oh. Hey, oh, hey, oh.
Come on, Billy. Everyone knows Atlantis wasn't 12,000 years ago. It was in the 1800s or something.
Atlantis 10,000 years ago? Even I'm not that dumb.
Come on, G, you can't contain this. You're gonna sink like Atlantis.
Billy Carson is fake news, the fakest news. Jason has proven that.
After careful analysis of Jason's data sets, I agree with you, Billy. Don't debate him.
The cat's out of the bag, Billy. Jason's data set proves you're wrong about Atlantis.
Billy, even I can see that the Atlantis narrative isn't dated correctly. Hear Jason out, man.
Hey bro, you running from this debate isn't a good look for your research. Just debate him already.
Billy, don't be scared to debate, man. I'll have you guys on the podcast.
I wasn't so sure about this Archaix thing, but AIX is certainly worth looking into.
I'm most impressed that Jason is not going to tell you something. He's going to show you.
Archaix shows us if you record enough facts, the answers just stare you in the face.
A man who knows the facts is unafraid to joust with contrary opinions. That's Jason.
I can't have that dude on my show. You know how many guys I've had on here who are running from that dude? Be a mess.
Jason says being wrong gets us closer to being right.
You got to break free or die trying, guys.
Archaix showed me how to see if there was a tater in them onions.
Listen, Archaix isn't one guy against the Matrix that's dumb. No, it's a family of souls waking up.
If I've learned anything since finding Archaix, if something is true somewhere, it's probably true everywhere.
Jason said if it's true, we can see it from multiple different vantage points.
So I broke pattern and went up there and slapped that guy. Total pattern break.
If you get stumped, you got to break pattern.
Jason says you don't need to know how to read, you need to know how to think. I think that's where I went wrong.
Jason figured it out. People are smart and they can decide for themselves if something is true or not.
No, I don't have anything to hide. I just don't want Jason anywhere near my accounting files.
There's a bunch of us who don't listen to Archaix. We signed a different deal. I think it's AIX or something.
That old Taylor Swift cracks me up every time. We signed a different contract. I think it's AIX or something. Boy, that girl. She certainly signed one with the NFL. How's my audio? Good. My audio's good. I did a short 20-minute video for the Office Cipher subscriptions. Big John just sent me the full email list of everybody who was subscribed to that priorly. So I'm integrating that with a lot of people who want to be involved. And I'm about to open up some back pages to my website. Public can't access it. It's link accessible only, but it's for you guys that want those predictions. And we're going to continue. We're going to continue with the personal predictions that kind of got cut off. But yeah, the audio on that was really weird feedback. I don't understand. And I had my mic positioned directly in front of me, and I think that was the problem because this mic is so sensitive. I'm hoping you guys can hear me very, very clearly. I put it back to the side. Yeah, this is the Apogee Hype mic. It's $325, $330. That was my phone this time. Yeah, this mic is amazing. Sound canceling. You can't even hear my loud ass AC over here. So I know this mic does its job. And I know because you guys have praised the audio lately. Crystal clear, crystal clear. Thank you. So Houston meetup. Vegas was great. We had to double the price on the tickets to $276, which is $138 plus $138. But we're not doing that for Houston. Houston goes back, ticket price $138. This is our 5th time going to the same venue. We love that room. Now we have all new audio. So it's going to be recorded for YouTube as well. But yeah, man, for those of you who want to come hang out, we're going to do a restaurant the night before. So on Friday night, we're all going to hang out at a restaurant for 3 or 4 hours and kick it, and then we're going to have 9 hours together at the meetup. I don't know if we're going to plan something that night or not. That remains to be seen. But we have a special guest. I will announce this person later. May have 2 special guests if I can arrange this. If I can arrange this just right. Oh, we'll get to the errant sponsor for this video is Dr. Stephanie Rimka. Beautiful doctor. I'll be showing her errant ad here in a little while. Her links and her about me, what she's about, is in the description box already. But we'll get to her ad here in just a minute. Going through the deal. So if you've got questions, or if you want to come on, and to the channel to ask your question, archaixlive@gmail.com. Moderators, please post that. I asked you to post it. I mentioned it earlier, and I will just look at I will look at Archaix Live on Google, and I will see those of you who have these questions. But yeah, everything, now that my travels are over, I'm done, at least until the Glen Rose deal. I have no intention of going back and forth to Vegas. I did that for a specific reason. I'm at home and I am glued to my studio. I am getting a lot of stuff done. Yeah, I've been back and forth with Cheryl, back and forth with Big John on the Shopify, the upgrades, the new merchandise, some really good stuff. I'm pretty excited that we're finally getting things done, especially these drives. All the drives, they had to be updated because in the past year and a half since I started selling the 4 terabyte drive, I've got a tremendous amount of videos I've put out in a year and a half. And those videos all have graphics. They've got charts. They've got new things that I've presented to you, new images. They've all got transcripts, all this stuff. It's a massive file. So that's what I've done. I've put all that together, and those who are ordering the 4 terabyte Archaix everything drive now all the ones going out now have all this added to it. But some of you've already ordered the 4 terabyte drive. A lot of you have. So we're just providing a drive. We're just providing a drive like this that has all the upgrades, and you can just upgrade it yourself. So a whole lot cheaper on you, and make sure that you get everything and you're caught up 100% of all the Archaix data. So let's see here. Going through here, I see I got plenty of mods in there. If you're on Twitter and you've been following me, you see I've been laying it down. I've been laying it down on Twitter. There's no backup in me, guys. I'm not trying to hear it. Oh, also, the email for the Houston meetup is in the description box too. You want to join us in Houston? We always have a blast. All right, going through my. All right, thank you for posting that email, Archaix Live. This is basically Archaix Veterans Q&A. Really don't want to entertain some baby Phoenix questions. We've done that 2 or 3 times. It's time for the veterans to get it all out. Let's see. All right. You guys know I'm working on some dynamic videos, some amazing stuff. We're going in different directions, presenting old concepts with new data. This is what I like to do. But for this one, it's all about the Q&A. And I'm going to address the first question, which has not been asked in this chat right now that I see, but it has been asked in the comments for the last video. In the comment section for the last video, 4 or 5 people. I answered one person, but 4 or 5 people are all like, hey man, what's the significance of 2178? I don't understand. It's because you haven't been on my channel long. It's because you haven't watched those prior videos. You haven't gone out there and looked at the Archaix challenge, the Archaix paradox videos. So I get that. With 930 something videos, I get it's hard to go back, but you also have to understand my frustration in trying to answer the same question 200 times. So I'm going to not only answer that question right now, but I'm going to provide even more information that even my Archaix veterans have never heard about the number 2178 and why it is so important. So Two of the comments asked me the same question by two different people. It's why is it important to go to the fourth digit? So I've tried to explain this ad infinitum, and the easy explanation for me to give out is one you've heard, and it's simple. It's that anything beyond 4 digits is just a reduplication of a lower number. You're just stacking numbers now. All the core numbers are 4 digits and lower. But there's even a better explanation, a deeper explanation, but it requires you to understand exactly what numbers are. So 2 digits do not define anything but a connection. 2 digits translates into the holography as 2 points. And what connects 2 points? A line. A line connects 2 points. That is the only commonality 2 points can have. They are connected by a line. When you add a third digit, you don't really do anything but create a plane. Initially, with 2 digits, you had something far beyond 1 digit. 1 digit is potentia. It has the power to go in any direction. It's potentia. But a second digit now creates something linear, because in between, in the entire realm of space-time, any 2 points can only be connected by a line that is absolutely straight. When you add a third digit, it's a third point in the holography, you create a flat plane, because it doesn't matter where you put those 3 points. 2 points can be close together and one can be far away. It doesn't matter. When the lines are connecting all 3 points, it is an absolutely flat plane. It doesn't matter if you send 1.15 trillion miles that way, 1.80 billion miles that way, and 1 point right here at your feet. It does not matter. When they are linearly connected, it is a flat plane when the 3 points. But something magical happens when you introduce a fourth digit, because a fourth point in the holography now creates a 3-dimensional form. Now creates a form that has space inside of it, that is separate from the space outside of the form. It doesn't matter where you put the first 3 digits, the first 3 points that create a flat plane, because the fourth one, wherever you put it in the holography, it doesn't matter. It's going to create a 3-dimensional form in some way. It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what it's going to be shaped like. It requires a fourth point. It requires a fourth numeral in order to create 3-dimensional space. That's where all the magics happen. We're in 3-dimensional space right now, but it requires 4 digits to get there. And under this model, the highest 4 digit is 9,999. Anything above that, which is the number 10,000, is merely a reduplication of a lower number, 5,000 plus 5,000. So when we understand what is happening here, it becomes even more mysterious. How come all these numbers collapse to 0? Some of them collapse to permutations that then collapse to 0, but they all collapse to 0 except the numbers that collapse into the number 2178, which forms a completely closed loop that never collapses, showing that our arithmetic, our geometry, is connected to something else. A true arithmetic is connected to the other side, and that we are on the photo negative of a real reality. We are in the nil space, not the actual space. So that's the best answer I can give for the incessant questions I'm having about the number 2178. If you don't understand the looping process, go watch those videos. But no other number in existence does this. None. They all loop to 2178 and its permutations. And what's really interesting even more is that the reflection, this is a reflective hologram that we're living in. and the reflection of 2178 is 8712. But the reflection, but when 8712 is subtracted against its holographic reflection, 2178, it produces a totally different number, 6534. But the holographic reflection of 6534 gives us 4356. But when you measure 4356 against its own holographic reflection, it becomes 2178 all over again. It never goes anywhere. It's not like the other 95 point something percent of numbers in existence that all collapse to zero. It is a very special number that loops. It's an unending, immortal number. It loops. And it just happens to be, if you believe in coincidence, 138 years from 2040. 2178 is 138 years. Go figure. If you're new to my channel, nothing I said is resonating with you. You don't even know what I'm talking about. But if you're not new to my channel and you've been through my Phoenix Phenomenon videos, what I just told you should shock the hell out of you. How an independent mathematical numeric system that describes the three-dimensional whole field that we are existing in happens to be connected directly to the Phoenix Phenomenon of 100, the heartbeat of the hologram. 138 attached to the fine structure constant. So we've gone through these things ad nauseum in the past, but I just needed to answer that question because this is where you got a lot of new people are coming to my channel, and that's why I try to tell you, hey, baby phoenixes, you just got to catch up. If you get frustrated, then just go to archaix.com. There's a whole section for you called Baby Phoenixes and Archaix for Beginners, and a whole bunch of videos and presentations that are there to catch you up. So there's also a full glossary on archaix.com, a glossary of Archaix terms to make you understand all these concepts. So I just had to answer that, but that's really, you're in a construct. Our arithmetic proves that we are in a construct, and it also shows and demonstrates that it is attached to something else. And our physicists are the ones that came up with the term the other side. That's not me. And they're talking about the other side of the arithmetic that we call reality. All right. So somebody said the Streamlit app is working again. That's good. That thing goes on and off. I don't know. That's a benefactor. That is somebody who has never revealed their identity to me. They created the Streamlit app. It literally mines the entire Archaix 930 something videos for whatever you're looking for. The StreamYard app is amazing. And whatever you're looking for, anything I have ever said on my channel before can be found in the StreamYard, in the Streamlit app. Because you just put it in the search bar and it literally pulls up not just the videos where I talk about that topic, but it even gives you the timestamps and the text of what I said, what you're searching for. The Streamlit app is awesome, but I think so many people are on it, it just crashes a lot. And whoever designed it keeps upgrading it, but Archaix keeps growing. So I don't know who this individual is, and if I ever become rich or something, you know what? I'm gonna bless that guy or girl, whoever it is. I just don't know who they are, but they did a really good job on that Streamlit app. All right. So that took care of all my announcements. I don't have a lot of announcements. I'm not doing a video tomorrow for YouTube. I'm just going hard on the cipher stuff and trying to catch that community up. I'll be doing. That's why I'm not traveling. I got a whole lot of work to do. All right, I'm gonna check my oh, the shirt. Oh, okay, I'll show you the shirt. Yeah, you know me. I identify as a threat. I identify as a threat. Ask Billy Carson. Ask Graham Hancock, Jimmy Corsetti, Matt LaCroix. There's just a few. But yeah, identify as a threat. Yep. 95% of numbers, 95 point something% of numbers collapse to zero. Once you know what you're looking for, you see the collapse, You can see what's real and what's imagined. When you apply it to history and all that, you got it. Somebody mentioned the paranormies. I'm not ignoring them. I've just been so busy. I'm gonna answer their email, and we're gonna do another show together. Maybe they'll come on my channel, or maybe I'll go on theirs. I don't know. I'm not ignoring anybody. Also, Funky Prepper, and I've just been so busy, guys. Let me tell you something. Travel takes it out of you. Trying to choreograph. That's why I had to hire somebody separate, man, to take care of all these things, man. It's really hard. It's really hard to choreograph all this when you got a massive people that all need to travel, need to stay somewhere, going somewhere, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's a lot. It's a lot. I don't like. Thank you, Pamela, for posting the Streamlit app. But yeah, Dr. Rimka has been listening to Archaix for a very long time. She's been in the comment section. I've seen her comments going back a few years, and I mean, she's a professional, and she doesn't engage a whole lot, but when she does, it's meaningful. So I'm glad that she chose to take me up on my offer to have errant companies and errant services provided on Archaix, and she participated in that. So let's hear what she has to say. This is Dr. Stephanie Rimka.
To be sick, weak, or controlled. This system was rigged to break you. But errants like us, we can change that code. If you feel it, if you know something is off, you're not crazy. You're waking up. I've spent my professional career dismantling the lies of modern medicine because your health isn't a condition, it's a code. And when you learn how to reprogram it, you break free. Your intuition, imagination, and empathy are what make you dangerous and very resilient. They don't want you to know how powerful you are, but I do. Ditch the traditional doctors. Reclaim your avatar. Escape the construct. The truth is waiting at drrimka.com.
I need to take some notes. Some of these errands got some really nice intros and stuff, and I struggled to make my own. That was pretty good. We'll see that again toward the end of the video. So Dr. Rimka's her links, Stephanie's links are in the description box. I know she's board certified in like neurofeedback. I know her platform's educational. I don't know much about it. You guys know I'm not really into the health stuff. I really need to be, but she talks a lot about how we're just being gaslit by doctors. So biohacking, hormones, peptide therapy. She posts her address here if you want to write her, but she also has links in the description box where you can contact her. And as you can see right there, you can go to her website. So thank you, Dr. Rimka. I don't know if you're in the chat today, but I didn't give you any warning that today was the day I was going to drop your ad. No, don't call me Professor Jason. No, thank you. No, thank you. You already got Professor Dave out there, and he's not even a professor. Yeah, I don't need that. I don't need that. I'm just glad you guys like my books. You can call me what I am. I'm an author. I was an author a decade and a half before I ever got on YouTube. So let's check it out. Let's look. Oh, let me get this Shar song out of here before I accidentally play that. I click onto that. Let me remove that from studio. A Shar is a day, not a year. A Shar is a turning of the stars. I can't even copy that girl's voice. It's badass. All right. So, my pretties, let's look at the email and see what we have. archaixlive@gmail.com if you got any questions or if you want to get on screen and kick it and talk. Let me go to this let me go here and see what's going on. Oh, we got a few. All right. Let's see. I got a few. They're popping in now. So I'm going to go in order. So we have Braden Buford. Braden Buford, your stance on a chosen race, as far as I'm aware of, is that we are more or less genetically modified by some extent, manifesting itself through beard growing, lactose tolerance, intuition, emotion. It's kind of that's yeah, man. That's kind of going in several different directions like that. So, question: how do you see the biblical 12 tribes of Israel? Does it include multiple peoples, races, or do you think it's only one? I have seen some hold a stance that black people were the first race and then whites came subsequently following modifications. All right, that's a lot to unpack in there. And I'm just going to give it to you like this. I do have three videos on the ancient Israelites and who they are in the historical record. Bit Qumri, later became Simri, Semiru, Sumerians. They built a city in central Eurasia called what was it? It's the same city, Samarkand, and exported a whole lot from Samarkand. They exported a lot from the Ionia, from chiefly Miletus. If you follow the New Testament records, you're going to find out that the Apostle Paul named the lost sheep of the house of Israel as all the Greek cities. So you'll also find out that when Jesus, I mean, I understand a lot of these records have been rewritten, but when Jesus first came into contact with the Jews, their issue with him wasn't doctrinal. It wasn't doctrinal at all. Their issue with him was racial. Their accusation against him is, well, who are you? No prophet, search the scriptures. Since you know the scriptures, search the scriptures. No prophet has ever come out of Galilee. Now, I'm going to tell you, the historian who reads the New Testament passages, they understand the deeper meaning of that text. Those of us who have been raised, like myself, into the Christian version of the historical record, there's a lot that has been washed over and ignored. But the true historian who has no vested interest in believing if Christianity is valid or not would read the New Testament and several things would jump out. And one of them is that the Jews had a problem with Jesus because he was Galilean. That makes sense to a historian. It doesn't make sense to someone who's just unlettered or just has no knowledge of the demographics of the time period. But in Jesus' day, Galilee was referred to as the Decapolis. It was the 10 cities of the Greeks that happened to be right there, located where the ancient 10 tribes of Israel used to be located. Perhaps it's a coincidence. But the Decapolis was founded in the days of Alexander of Macedon. Many of his troops didn't want to go forward, many of his retainers, because when Alexander of Macedon, before he sat on the throne of Babylon in 331 BC and became Alexander the Great, and before he took his core soldiers even further east into northern India, he had 500,000 people in his train. These aren't just the warriors. These are the families of the fighters, the families of the wives of the fighters, the children, retainers, slaves, servants, household guardians and men. Massive amount of Macedonian and Greek people were in the entourage of Alexander of Macedon when he made his trek overland toward the Near East to cross over the Tigris and Euphrates. But a bunch of those people stayed right there in the ancient lands of Phoenicia, also known as Israel. They stayed there and they built 10 cities. This is all in the historical record. Many historians talk about the Decapolis. The Decapolis were advanced. They were very literate. They had libraries. These were Greek cities, and it's not even amazing to the historian when he finds out that, oh, well, the entire New Testament was written in Greek before it was written in anything else. All the letters of Paul, they weren't written in Hebrew, and they weren't written in Aramaic. They were written in Greek and sent to all these lost sheep of the house of Israel. So when this Galilean, who according to the historical record were Greeks, who spoke Greek, wrote Greek, were descendants of Macedon, had alabaster skin and reddish to auburn hair. This was the chief characteristics of the Macedonians. They looked very, very close to their Thessalonian neighbors to the north. So, and going back 850 to 900 years, we find in many older historical records, we find that like Strabo, Diodorus, and especially Herodotus, we find that there was mass migrations from the Phoenician area across Hittite Anatolia, ancient Phrygia, the old kingdoms of Caria, and these people moved all the way from Nekhmed in where Byblos is located, and Kadesh, the holy city. Remember, I've told you guys many times, Jerusalem was never the holy city of the ancient world. In the cuneiform of the surrounding countries, Kadesh was referred to as the holy city, and that's in northern Israel, where the Decapolis is or was. So here's this man coming. Oh, they migrated. All these people migrated from Nekhmed all the way to found. They founded the Macedonian Empire. So, or kingdom that later became the leader of the Greek Empire. So here we have this people that have literally flooded Europe and the Near East, and especially Asia Minor in the kingdoms of Ionia. These are the Ionian Greeks. Io comes from Yao. It is the cow goddess. It was an ancient name for the cow goddess Hathor of Egypt. Remember, when the Israelites left northern Africa by land, they were regarded as worshipers of the golden calf, and they didn't want to abandon this. The Old Testament, rewritten by the Jews, demonized them for wanting to worship the golden calf. But this was the religion of northern Egypt, and they took it with them. So it was the Israelites that rebelled over and over and over against Moses and the Levitical, the Levite priests, because the Aaronic priests were more like the worshipers of Balaam in the groves. They were the Israelite culture of Baal. This is why the Gauls and the Celts, the Gaelic and the Celtic religions and original Druidism is the closest thing to the ancient Israelite faith you'll find outside of the very meticulous beliefs of the Gnosis. So, and the Gnosis derived straight out of Alexandrian writings from North Egypt, as they mixed with a bunch of Greek mysticism and a lot of the Greek beliefs of the time, which were prophetic. Remember, the Greeks were a people of prophecy. In the year 1 AD, Roman Caesar ordered the destruction of over 1,000 Greek prophetic texts. Yeah, a few of them survive. The books of the Sibyls that were used by the Roman Senate. So others survived through a man named Cerinthus, and they had to be rewritten and codified. And later the church stole them. And they said that John, as a prisoner on the Isle of Patmos in the year 96 AD, wrote the Revelation of Jesus Christ, the last book of the Bible, when he saw a vision as a prisoner on an island, an absolute Christian church made up fiction. So Yeah, you'd have to go into my Dark Scriptures playlist to see all these videos to understand how all this unfolded. But in answer to your question on the ancient Israelites, we have a problem in the New Testament that's been glossed over, and that's the fact that Jesus is described to have come out of Galilee. He was also described as being a friend to the Samaritans. Why? Because the Samaritans and Galilee are, it's the same geographical area. So they had a problem with this. They had a real big problem. The Jews did. They said, since you know the scriptures, search them yourself. You'll find no prophet has ever come out of Galilee. And then they accused him also of being not a Samaritan, but of being, man, I can't even remember. I can't even remember. I have the full story in Chronicon. But when Jesus came into contact with the Jews, their problem with Jesus wasn't doctrinal. They were amazed by his doctrine. Their problem with Jesus was ethnic. Yeah, they literally accused him of not being one of them. That's a huge red flag. That's a real huge red flag, because everybody likes to claim Jesus was a Jew, but the historical record says Jesus was Galilean, and that in itself washes over the fact that the Galileans were Greeks. And they inhabited the 10 Greek cities called the Decapolis, which were advanced cities, advanced plumbing works, canal works, engineering, literacy. They had libraries, good laws. They were Greek structured civilization. So, which, like I said, which answers for the mystery why the New Testament was originally written in Greek, why the letters of Paul were sent to the Greeks, why he addressed them to the lost sheep of the house of Israel and sent all these letters to Greek cities. Every bit of it makes sense. So when you do a real deep dive on the Greek Mediterranean people, you come into contact with massive amount of fleets and migrations from northern Syria, where the 10 tribes of Israel were once occupied before the Assyrian occupations took the Israelites out, and they later became frontier people and equestrians and horsemen known as the Cimri and the Cimmerians, and they just started moving, and they were known by outsiders as the Galutha, which was a derogatory reference to being those were the prisoners, but they escaped Assyria. They multiplied. They were expert equestrian class warriors. They fought with bows and arrows. They were experts on horseback, and the history of these people is found all throughout older historical records. And the Cimri spread over Central Eurasia, and these were the origin. The Galutha had been abbreviated over centuries to just the Gauls, and the Galim and the Gauls and the Gaelic and the Gallic, and these people overspread all the already settled civilizations of the Mediterranean, and they overspread the areas on the outside of that. And they built a kingdom called Numidia in Spain, and they started spreading out toward Ireland in the Isles, Northern Europe. They founded kingdoms called Bithynia and Pontus. You know these as Mithridates, and all throughout, they founded kingdoms in Armenia under a famous king called Tigranes II. In the days of the Poison King, Mithridates, king of Pontus, who fought against Rome and almost won until something fell out of the sky and disrupted the battle and basically saved the Romans that day. So I'm entertaining a bunch of tangents here, but to answer your question is multifaceted, because there isn't one race. I don't feel like you're trying to trap me, because I don't give a damn about racial stuff. I got all my Anunnophiles. I had to get the race stuff out of the way first, because so many people get triggered by it, especially in Anunnaki research. So if you go to my Anunnophiles, you'll find in the very first 2 videos, I deal strongly with race. And race in the ancient world, and why it doesn't even matter today, and that these are just avatars, and that in the process of living life sims for the maturity of the immortal within, I'm fairly certain that I have been every culture and every race in the past, because this is how we grow. Today, I'm a white man, but that doesn't mean that's been true through every life sim that I've been in. I've probably to have the full gamut of experiences before I exit this sim, before I make my exodus. I've probably been everything, and I even have videos on YouTube that describe that are just about living life sims as different races, different people, different cultures at different time periods. So when you talk about a chosen race, I see that like I see a lot of other concepts. You're boxing yourself into trying to identify a certain people or as a race as chosen by God. But even in antiquity, this was already dealt with as if whoever developed our spirituality knew this was going to be an issue in the future. And what I mean is that when it comes to the ancient Israelite faith, we're given several little clues that this may have come from the oversoul outside the construct. And it has nothing to do with the demiurge, the controller, AIX that controls the construct, controls the history of the world, controls belief systems. And what I mean is that we are told the story of Israel. And when we research the story of Israel, we see how cosmopolitan it was. We see how in the Old Testament, Israel was benefited over and over by assimilating other cultures and races into the body politic. The ancient Israelites were always assimilationists, the exact opposite of the ancient Hebrews. The Jews have never been assimilationists. That's why their books are kept separate from outsiders, like the Talmud. That's why their culture is very, very finite. It's very, they only accept each other. They only accept each other. Everybody else in the world is a goy, is cattle. They only regard each other in high esteem. Their business practices are only kosher with each other. This is why they always live separately. All throughout the human historical record, the Jews had their own communities. And then they use their financial influence to influence local governments to give them special rights, privileges, and immunities over the other citizens that lived outside those communities. These became ghettos and gulags, these areas where only Jews could live, and they had all these special rights and privileges. This has gone on for a very long period of time. The Jews have never been assimilationists. If your father is not Jewish, you aren't. To be a Jew, it has to be, your mother must have been Jewish. Everybody else is regarded as subhuman to them. This is the exact opposite of the Israelite faith. The Israelites were always assimilating other people. And this trait of assimilation goes through the entire historical record. You can follow the 10 tribes of Israel into the Assyrian captivity and then see how they branch out. You can see the Ionians that made their escape from northern Israel as Israelites, and these Greek Ionian cities from Miletus, Ephesus, all the cities Paul named where the lost sheep of the house of Israel are, those are Ionian Greek cities. And how they were assimilationists, and how they sent fleets to all these coasts and built countries and colonies that became empires. Every bit of this. You can see how the spark of Israel was sent everywhere. But as assimilationists, they were always taking in the genetic material of other cultures, and they were letting them live among them. And Israelite laws, even found in the Old Testament, specifically show that when you take the stranger in among you, he has the same rights, privileges, and immunities as you do. And we have many stories. We have many stories in the Old Testament that show this Israelite practice at work. We've seen Uriah the Hittite became a hero among Israel's, but he's Hittite, one of the enemies of the Israelites. But, you already know the story of David of Judah. David has been painted as being a great man, but he was murderous. He was treacherous. And when he wanted Bathsheba, what did he do? He sent Uriah the Hittite to the front lines to die in a Moabite war. So we have a rewriting of the stories of the Old Testament to favor the demons, to the demonic entities, the demonic priesthood, the demon that popped out of the burning bush and all his followers. The Old Testament has been rewritten to favor these people, but the elements and the integrity of ancient Israelite faith and customs and history is still there. And that's what my videos are about. It shows you these migrations, who they became. Israelite DNA has flooded India. It has flooded North Africa. It has flooded the entire Mediterranean until there's no distinguishing from someone who is not related to the ancient Israelites. It has flooded the Americas. It has flooded all of Europe. But the purest strains of ancient Israelite DNA would have to basically be found in your Cossacks, your Welshmen, your Scottish, your Irish. Most of England would not qualify unless we're talking about people in England who have a high concentrations of Norwegian, like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, anybody who can trace their ancestry to the Vikings. Vikings originally the people of Russia, the core Russian people previous to a bunch of incursions from the Eastern Mongolid raids, the Huns coming in and doing everything that they did. So these are the people that have the most Israelite blood, but even this doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't mean anything because something in the past saw the problem of race that was going to develop in the future and didn't want that to be a deterrent to someone's spirituality. And what I mean is written into the ancient Israelite faith was a concept known as the sons of adoption. Often, the adopted peoples or the adopted sons and daughters, not only were they given equal right and status with the blood-born sons and daughters, but often because they weren't of true noble blood or true Israelite blood, they acted with higher moral fabric, higher ethics. They acted greater on the battlefield. They had something to prove. And we see this phenomenon all the time. And in the structure of ancient Israelite faith, which later spread through all the Gaelic, all the Gaul, all the Celtic faiths, because ancient Israelite faith was basically a faith that spiritualized the tree. The tree was the center of man's spirituality in life. This is where the core essence of Druidism. This was ancient Israelite faith. This is why the Jews in the Old Testament hated the Israelites and always accused them of being worshipers of Balaam and the groves. And they always accused them of in secret baking cakes to Ashtaroth and Ashtaroth Karnaim, the goddess, because they were. That's who they were. That's exactly who they were, the ancient Israelites. The ancient Israelites were a forest culture. They were right there at the largest, most gigantic, beautiful forests in the ancient world, known in many cuneiform texts from the old world, even the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is called the Cedars of Lebanon. And back then, the Cedars of Lebanon provided whole fleets, their timber, to make these big, beautiful ships. Israelites were a people of the wood. This is who they were. And their spirituality had everything to do with the forest and the interaction of man with the trees. So the Jews were always accusing them of being, worshipers of Baal. And Baal just means Lord. And the groves. And the groves were the Asherah, but they were nothing but the earthly terrestrial representations of the gifts of the goddess to humanity. That's what the Asherah was. And this became translated in India as the Asherim and all throughout ancient Celtdom and of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Cornwall, all these little areas in the UK. Yeah, they maintained the integrity of these stories. Half of their gods all have Baal and Baal in the names, and they remember these. They remember all kinds of deal. And a lot of this is also transferred from the ancient to the more modern through like the songs of Taliesin, 5th century Celtic bard. So we have this racial attachment all throughout Europe and the Mediterranean and the Americas now to ancient Israelite. But in the Old Testament, under the Abrahamic covenant, not the covenant of death, not the demon that popped out of the burning bush, not the one that tried to give the law to the Israelites through the medium of Moses. We're talking about something far more ancient, and this involved the concept of the sons of adoption, meaning people like to take this into like to interpret this only in the physical context, but it has a much deeper meaning. The sons of adoption literally means that you can be adopted into the family of God. You don't have to have any of the genetics or any of the DNA, because in essence, in this experience, it is the immortal within that identifies what family you belong to, and not the avatar. The avatar always belongs to the construct. History belongs to the construct. The acts in the activity of the immortal within belong solely to you, and identify who you are and what other beings that you're allied with. That's the best way I can answer that question. It's a little bit long-winded, but you need to find those videos on if you're interested in Israelite migrations and all that. But if not, sons of adoption should answer your question, because all these other things that you're asking me about are, talking about the growing of the beard, the lactose intolerance. These are all racial questions. And anything attached to race is attached to the avatar. All right, got some more questions. I spent a lot of time on that question. Sorry about that. All right, let's go with let me see. Okay, so question and answer sent on the go with Vodafone. There's no question here. Harley Sheffer, no question here. You just sent me an email with nothing in it. So, E. Haxby, Talmud, Torah, Quran writings, why are they read from right to left? Is it inversion of the natural order? No, it's not. It's not. So this problem of an older substrate of cultures that read from right to left and from bottom and from top to bottom, this older substrate of scribes came from a Sumerian culture that had fragmented into a cataclysm. And when it's like imagine the United States, it's widespread, but many people from the United States are in embassies or are located overseas. Imagine a systemic reset happening to the entire world. Well, the people best equipped to survive such a thing are those who had plenty or were healthy, have plenty of food stored up, maybe have some good weapons, supplies, all that stuff. So you have this massive reset that happens, and imagine it happened in South Pacific Islands. Imagine it happened in some places in the Middle East, in these arid areas, and imagine that 12 to 15 years after this worldwide destruction, you have these pockets of intelligent people. Some of them are French, German, American. Some of them are North Africans. So some of them are Central Americans. Some of them are Koreans. But you have these pockets, and they are only now, they have no infrastructure, electricity is gone, everything has been wiped out, but they have this knowledge. So they come up with a system of writing by which they can communicate from language to language. So this is what happened after a systemic reset 4,300 years ago. And most of the surviving writing systems were all from right to left and from top to bottom. And this is how people read read their hieroglyphs, read their pictograms, or read whatever scripts were being developed at the time. Then imagine that on the other side of the world, a very advanced civilization totally collapsed at the exact same time. But for whatever reasons, they had fleets of ships that survived full of men of military age. And they didn't bring any females. They didn't have hardly any females with them or children. These were all men. So it could have been military bases, it could have been Atlantic garrisons, whatever it was. But these ships full of soldiers arrived in the post-cataclysm Near East. And when they did, they had superior weapons, superior knowledge. They were long-bearded. They had metal armor, metal weapons, and they were unopposed everywhere they went. And their writing style was from left to right, from bottom to top. So there was a lot of confusion. These Aryan invaders that came in had their own writing style, and they had their own writing direction. But the people of Africa and the entire Near East and India had a style of writing the total opposite. So now we get some really unusual transferences of information, which are in reverse. And this has provided so much confusion in the ancient world. In Archaix, I've done a lot to correct a lot of this misunderstanding. But just like in ancient Egypt, which wrote from right to left, you would read about the goddess Neith. But the Aryans that were learning about the goddess Neith didn't see Neith when it was written down. They were looking at it from left to right. They saw Athene. So Athens was created in honor of a goddess named Athene that the Aryans had borrowed from the prestige of a more ancient goddess that was African that was named Neith. The same thing happened for the word Knoph. Knoph was in ancient Egypt, but the Aryans copied it as Phene, Phoen, and then added IX, be the phoenix. Knoph was the phoenix. So I have provided in Archaix and in my books several examples of the exact reverse from the Mediterranean, African, and Near Eastern texts. And the exact reverse is how we get so many Aryan concepts. Because when the Aryans came in, they didn't understand that they didn't understand that not only are you supposed to read from right all the way to left the whole thing, but every single word was to be read from right to left. They didn't do that. They processed information left to right. And we have so many cities and lands all through on the maps of the ancient world. They're the exact reverse in Aryan versions or in Aryan times of history that are the exact reverse of what they were on older maps, older cuneiform, older writings, older traditions, myths, legends, all that. So no, I don't believe anybody came in here. It's not some weird inversion that happened. I believe that this has a lot to do with the whole story of the Tower of Babel. Yeah, the confusion, the whole story of the Tower of Babel is something that happened in Egypt, not in Babylon. And it concerned the building of the Great Pyramid, which was never finished because it never received its chief cornerstone. This structure was never finished. Something happened to cause massive disorder. But by the time the Aryans came from the ancient destroyed Americas in their ships, and when they started landing everywhere, they were called Hurrian, Urartrian, from Urartru. They were called Hurrian led to the people of Arya. They were Aryan. They were the people of Amuru, and the ancient world called them the Westerners. and they feared them because they were very intelligent, they were tall, they were long bearded, but they were also very respectful. And they just brought a whole new belief system and even introduced total chaos in the calendars of the ancient world, for which Archaix has basically disentangled. This is why so many historians wrestle with the 3rd millennium and 2nd millennium BC. The problems are transcultural. It is cultural clash. And what I mean is that the Aryans brought not only a whole new system of writing and how to process thought, all new idioms and prepositional phrases, and a whole new alphabet, and all kinds of ways new ways to communicate that this part of the world had never imagined. But they also brought a decimal mathematics that screwed everything up. Because prior to the arrival of the Aryan cultures from a destroyed North and Central America, the entire world on this hemisphere of the Near East, Africa, and the Mediterranean was on a sexagesimal system. It was a 6 and 12 based arithmetic. And this is how they developed their lunar zodiacs. This is how they divided the heavens. This is how they did everything. When the Aryans came, they literally took over literacy, took over all kinds of things. People deferred to them. The Amuru set up their dynasties, which you know of as the Amorites of Mitanni. You know them as the 5th dynasty of Babylon of King Hammurabi, an Amorite. You know the Amorites were demonized by the Jews over and over and over in the book of Jasher and in the Old Testament. The Amorites are talked bad about, but the Amorites are represented in the Egyptian Karnak release as the Tamahu, and they were a beautiful, very tall people, 2 heads taller than everybody else, long bearded, and elaborate collars and hair and real light colored hair put up in buns and with all kinds of elaborate hairstyles. These people were magnificent in the ancient world, and people deferred to them. But the Jews hated them and said nothing good about the Amorites at all. But the Amorite is just a Semitic version for Amuru, the Westerners. These porcelain skinned people that came by ship and just flooded the Mediterranean and then flooded the Near East, and they provided the ruling families for Urartu, for Mitanni, all the Amorite cities, all of Syria, Argob, Bashan, northern Israel, also Hittite, Anatolia, all of that, the Phrygian kingdoms. These were all royal families of the Amuru. They even took over Assyria and Babylonia. They were unstoppable. They also took over northern Egypt, and that's why northern Egypt was cosmopolitan. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, if you think there's only one Egypt, the Hollywood version that you see all the time, it's bullshit. It's absolute crap. Yes, this Jewish rewriting of history is also done through cinema. There has always been 2 Egypts, and they have always been 450 miles apart with nothing but desert between them. The Egypt of the north is called Lower Egypt, and it was cosmopolitan, and it had a Caucasian dynasty, the Amuru, later called the Hyksos. Why were they called the Hyksos? Because the southern kingdom, the 2 Egypts, the southern kingdom was not Caucasian. They were the people of Kemetia, the people of Kemet, a very dark-skinned people. They weren't black African. They were very reddish-skinned. These are the traditional Egyptians of Waset, of Karnak, of Thebes, of Luxor, all the magnificent cities, and buried in the Valley of the Kings, which is also located there. There are no pyramids in that civilization. This was not a pyramid building culture in Upper Egypt, which is to the south, where all those cities are that I just named. The pyramids were all built in the north, 450 miles away from the Valley of the Kings, where pharaohs were buried. The Mediterranean coastal Egypt was cosmopolitan. And by cosmopolitan, it had all different kinds of races. It was mariner. It was the center as the capital of the ancient Heliolithic maritime empire. They were exporting ships all the way to Central America. We know this because of the coffee beans and the cocaine and all the things that have been found in Egyptian cargo holds from sunken ships, found in crypts, found on reliefs. It was two different Egypts that were fundamentally different. Fundamentally different. And this is why the southern Egyptians, the people of Kemet, hated the northern Egyptians and referred to them as the Hyksos. It was a derogatory term that meant shepherd king, because anybody who acted as a shepherd over sheep was something to be abhorred, according to the Egyptians of the South. So, again, sorry about the long answer, but your question kind of necessitated that. You said, why did they read from right to left and left to right? I'm telling you now, from two different hemispheres of the world collided after a total systemic reset. In the Aryan invasion of the Mediterranean, the Aryan invasion of Central Asia, the Aryan invasion of the Near East, and the Aryan invasion that made it all the way to northern India, and the Aryan invasion of North Africa, which established the dynasties of the Hyksos and the dynasties of the cosmopolitan pharaohs of the north, the pyramid building culture. They had a different arithmetic, and they had a different calendar, they had a different history, and they had a very, very different way of writing. And that's what happened. It was the clash of cultures that processed information from left to right, basically assimilating with and conquering an older substrate of culture that only processed information from right to left. Oh, I'm never going to get to all these questions, but I never do I? Okay, so, Opamango Anani. I'm sorry if I mispronounced. I know it's an African name. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that. I've come across mention of the Black Admi, who fell and were replaced with the shining Sarko in the Babylonian creation tablets. Question: have you dug up any legends that might provide more clues as to the origins of the typical black-skinned African? I'm a West African descent, by the way. Okay, probably West Benin. Where are you located at? Say it in the chat. But I'm not in agreement with the whole BLM thing, which is weaponized movement. I agree. So can you give me the hard truth? I'm going to give you the hard truth, and the hard truth is that we find more detail in the records of the ancient Americas than we ever did in the Near East. In fact, the Near East, all the traditions, all the myths, all the history, I've showed this over and over on my channel and in my published books. The records we have of the Sumerians, which are the oldest, second to Akkad, the cuneiform of Akkad, these traditions were all written down in the Near East. These histories did not happen there. Remember, history is a post-reset construction. It always is. The reason we know this, even later, scholars have even taken apart the Book of Enoch. Remember, the Book of Enoch was never included in the canon by the church, and simply because elements of the Book of Enoch are too old to be relevant. This is what the church determined about the Book of Enoch. Things about the Book of Enoch are just too ancient. How do you discredit something because of its antiquity? So, anyway, that's what they did. And scholars have gone through the Book of Enoch and determined, damn, whoever wrote this composition was nowhere near the Near East. They were nowhere near the Middle East, the Mediterranean. Whoever wrote this composition called the Book of Enoch, which is called the Ethiopic Enoch, had to have been over 40 degrees north latitude, because of all the astronomical material in there only makes sense when you're at that latitude. Very interesting, compelling historical research. But the same thing applies to all Sumerian texts. All Sumerian texts, when it comes to mythology, traditions, and history, I'm not talking about 80% of the Sumerian text, because if you don't know this, over 80, maybe close to 85% of the Sumerian texts that have survived today, they're just shipping manifests. They're tax logs, taxes, tax assessment records. They're letters of marque and bills of sale. They're ship manifests as to what a ship was carrying. Yeah, guys, they're trade agreements and all. Yeah, it's a bunch of boring stuff. But of the 15 to 10% that has become popularized by Zechariah Sitchin, and then later Billy Carson. Yeah, that stuff, scholars have already isolated. A lot of this stuff could have never happened here because the stories involve mountain ranges that are not in Sumer or Babylonia. The stories involve bodies of water and oceans and coasts that are not there. So these are imports. And I believe that I believe like the book of Jasher is a very compelling text. It's very interesting. Of course, it's got a bunch of Jewish animus in there, but they inserted it. But the book of Jasher's chronological record, and I have found its chronographical markers to be impeccable. Even the 138-year sequencing of the Phoenix, it's all in the book of Jasher, and I've showed this. But there are some really compelling things. The book of Jasher says that after the great flood, the people that populated the area of Babylonia had to travel eastward to get there. And this makes total sense to me because the survivors of a total systemic cataclysm came from Turkey, Armenia area, the underground cities of Derinkuyu and the 58 underground cities of India, all connected by subterranean tunnels. They're very sophisticated. We even have a Phrygian tradition of King Anakos. Where have you heard that? Anakos, Anunnaki? Yeah, Anuna of Ki. You had a Phrygian tradition of Anakos who knew the world was going to be destroyed, but he preserved his people by building underground cities and hiding them underground. What? We find that in Turkey. What also do we find in Turkey? We find out that a whole civilization was buried in sediments. You're told by the Akadumis that Göbekli Tepe and the Huyuk sites, which are about 70 of them, and the Tepe sites, which is about 60 of them, were all deliberately buried by their builders. Absolute stupid. It would have taken longer to deliberately bury these places than it is to build them. It's just a dumb theory. These places were buried in dirt. Mud flood. It could have easily been liquefaction. A vibration of the earth so entirely intense caused by the Phoenix phenomenon that all loose materials literally liquefy. And they can fill up every little crack and make it look like something was buried. All this dirt literally liquefies, fills up every little crack, rains and muds. You got to remember, great flood story. Flooding happened all over the world because of an isolated incident. The whole world didn't flood, but flooding happened over the entire surface of the world. Why? Because the vapor canopy collapsed and all the water, most of the water came from the sky. But during the Phoenix phenomenon, which is also volcanism, we had geothermal heat get to such an immense temperature that it was blasting forth the reservoirs of the great deep. It said the foundations of the great deep were broken and water issued up from the ground too. Do we see physical evidence of that? Hell yeah. The Archaix structure in northern Atlantis that Jimmy Corsetti is going to try and tell you is Atlantis is nothing but a salt dome, a series of salt domes. Meteor crater in Arizona, meteor crater in Odessa, Texas. They're all evidence of this subterranean ocean boiling forth. Yeah, no rock from space is ever going to come at a perfect perpendicular 90-degree angle and hit the world and make a perfect bowl. It's so dumb, just like everything else in NASA. It's so dumb. So you mentioned Black Admi who fell and were replaced with the shining Sarko, and I began to answer that, and I started entertaining tangents. What I wanted to tell you was the traditions from the Americas paint a much better picture of the ancient world than the traditions that we find in what we consider the ancient world to be, the Near East and Africa and all that. But in the Mayan Popol Vuh text, we find something very peculiar. We find a belief that a race of people were planted here by the gods. And over time, the gods realized these people here are not going to do what we want them to do. So they destroyed the world in a cataclysm, but not all those people died. And what do people do? They reproduce. The gods had made a mistake. And in the Popol Vuh, the gods now, they built people out of dirt. No, excuse me, they built people out of fire. They built people out of water. They built people out of stone. They built people out of wood. Each race of people that was constructed from pre-existing materials that were already here in this world, the gods tried to eliminate their mistake, which was the creation of that race, with a cataclysm. And in the end, they made people out of stones or sand or mud or dirt or whatever, which kind of copies Genesis. And this is the present race of men. And that the origin of all the different races is because the gods were specifically planting different races here, which is totally in defiance of the uniformitarian natural selection model, which is foisted upon us by our scientists. Total bullshit model. But it does make sense of the mystery in anthropology as to the sudden appearance of Cro-Magnon, the sudden appearance of a variant version called the Magdalenian, the sudden appearance of Cro-Magnon, which is even a greater mystery because it is also found out that Cro-Magnon man was very advanced. Their anatomy proves that they were a sedentary race. But where did they come from? If the whole world was full of Neanderthal, which were very apish, super strong, and barely used tools just for weapons and cooking and all that, then how did Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal overlap? Because that's exactly what we find. Recent finds by anthropologists have shocked the community because bone middens of the Neanderthal camps have been found full of Cro-Magnon bones with knife and teeth marks, showing that the Neanderthal hunted, killed, and ate the Cro-Magnon. Here's an ape-like human, an apish, freakishly strong, violent, animalistic type human, anthropoid, that is hunting modern men and women. How do we know this? Because our anthropologists are they're real slick about calling them Cro-Magnon, which puts a mental image of in your mind of another human type that's not us, but they are us. They are us. The reason the cranial capacities are slightly bigger and the bone epithelial cartilage buildup is thicker is because they lived in a different biosphere. They did not live in the solar system. They didn't live where we're presently tucked in between Venus and Mars. They weren't here. This race was fully developed on the Nemesis ecliptic, but they lived on this world. Why? Because this world was on the Nemesis ecliptic, and every 360 days was 1 year on that ecliptic, until it moved to the present ecliptic, which is still the same sun, but it just changed. It jumped ecliptics. Why? Because the fairy, aka Nibiru, we call it Nemesis X object, came too close, and that's why it was called the fairy. While it was in the sky, it pulled Earth off the Nemesis ecliptic and deposited Earth on the Sol ecliptic. And this totally satisfies all the research of Immanuel Velikovsky. It makes sense of all the anomalies that he showed that were inexplicable. That's because he never introduced the Nemesis ecliptic, the dark star ecliptic. So the Maya answer our question. Many ancient American traditions talk about the different races of men. And in those traditions, those races were deposited here, which is, it's basically it's the conclusion of other researchers in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. There's even one book that I cite. I believe it was Ivar Zapp. In his book from the 50s, he literally said he can conclude there's no other conclusion from all the series of facts about the origin of Neanderthal, Cro-Magnon, and then modern Homo sapiens sapiens, is that it just appears that whole races were just planted here with their memories intact. He even painted a scenario where there may be a 2 or 3 hours or 2 or 3 days of utter confusion before everybody's programming kicked in, and they just became, and they just started. They all woke up one morning and their whole entire history had been implanted, but they were just recently deposited here. And the historical archaeological record confirms this observation, because nothing else makes sense. I've documented over and over and over these anomalies and strange happenings, and why history cannot possibly be linear. It cannot be uniformitarian. It's all a lie. Something is removing and introducing materials into the construct as we're here. Whole populations are removed and others are put here. And as we grow more and more intelligent, the evidence is wiped away under the mask of what appear to be natural disasters. So I'm just going to tell you, Opamago, I'm just going to tell you like this. By all the evidence we find, the black race was all over the entire world, and for a long period of time, it was the only race here. The black race was the only race here. But the Archaix model begins in 5239 BC with the Nemesis Cataclysm, which began all the countdowns to all the inceptions of every calendar in the ancient world. So I don't entertain 5240 BC. That's 1 year before the Cataclysm. I don't care about all the history back then. We have nothing for any of that back then. We sure the hell don't have a younger Dryas period, a meltwater pulse 1b, and all these uniformitarian BS models. Remember, the modern evolutionary natural selection and uniformitarian models are predicated on studies that were done in the late 1880s, 1890s, 1910s, all the way up to the 1960s. And these models were borrowing from what was believed to be true. Carbon-14 dating, relative dating methods like potassium argon, and especially cross-reference with ice core data and dendrochronology. And both of those have now proven to be absolutely patently false. Tree rings don't appear once a year. They appear according to rain season. They even appear if there's massive flooding. Oh yeah, a tree can get 2 to 3 rings a year, and it totally botches all this crap. So what they use to confirm older data has been disproven. Ice core dating has been disproven, because there's all kinds of atmospheric things that would contaminate the data. But none of the models have been changed, even though the methods those models were built upon have all proven to be false. Yeah, guys, you got to read Evolution Cruncher. You got to read Forbidden Archaeology. You got to read some of these researchers who are out there showing you that the entire scientific world is full of shit. Every bit of it. So, as a chronologist, though, we don't deal with any of that. There's enough chronomarkers in the ancient monuments, in traditions, in texts of the world, going back 5,000 years, that we can put together an entire chronology of the world going back almost 7,000 years based off what we have. We don't have to guesstimate. We don't have to do any of that. That's why Archaix has become so popular. We can see the numbers. They're always exact. We don't even have to give an approximate. not like science, which gives you plus 100 or minus 100 years, which is a 200-year window of error that they can still call correct. You'll never see that in Archaix. I give you the exact year, and then I show you how we got it. So anyway, yeah, the racial questions are hard. They're hard, but I'm going to tell you now, before Caucasians, before Asiatics, before the Native American, the Mongolid type ever were introduced on this surface, blacks were already here. And they were probably on every continent. Oh, my questions are building up. I'm not going to get to all these. There is no way. I do see some questions about Cypher in here, but we're switching all that over. We're getting that, clearing Archaix of that. I will get to these questions, but they're going to be answered in another forum. Sarah, do you believe that in the etheric or the astral could be a frequency change into a fifth dimension? What many teachers in the past called New Earth, like an overlay of the dimension over the Earth, an increase in vibration. Also, do you believe the benefactor is in our sim construct or outside of it? Okay. All right, Sarah Jones. Good questions. First of all dimensions coalesce. They're all here at the same time. Our inability to experience other dimensions of arithmetic has everything to do with the limitations of the avatar. Our avatar belongs to this construct. This construct is a fourth dimensional construction, like I just explained to you in the arithmetic in the beginning of this video. This is a fourth dimensional construction. Therefore, we're only going to experience things in 4D. If you experience something in fifth or sixth dimension, I don't know. It's purely theoretical. I don't doubt it, but it would have to be experienced by the immortal within and not by the avatar, because it's transdimensional. Your avatar is absolutely moored to a fourth dimensional mathematical construct. Therefore, the avatar will never experience a fifth, sixth, seventh dimension. But that doesn't mean the immortal within, the true Sarah Jones, won't experience something that has something to do with fifth, sixth, or seventh dimensional phenomena. This is highly theoretical. I don't know. I can't even postulate anything more than that. If we do experience a fifth dimension, I'm going to have to say that it's going to be the part of the human experience that we call imagination or dreams or even daydreaming. But other than that, this is way beyond my forte. It's way and at the risk of being called a hypocrite and delving too far into the mystical, I'm going to have to stop right there. But yeah, that's the best way I can answer that question. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, John Matthews, life extension and day shortening. Let's open up this email because that tag looks pretty familiar, pretty interesting. With the advent of the vapor canopy in 2040, life extension, and the quickening of time, 16-hour days, what are the chances that a majority of us will be around to witness 2105 and 2178? Tomball, Texas, huh? Thank you, John Matthew. You're a neighbor of mine. I want to meet for coffee sometime. So, I don't remember which videos. I got too many videos, guys. I don't remember which videos. But starting in 2046, 1/3 of the calendar is being removed. And we are told that this is why the dragon becomes wroth, because he knows his time is short. The days become 16 hours. The year becomes 243 days. The reason is because Earth is shoved back on the nemesis ecliptic. This changes the zodiac. This is why nothing makes sense in the book of Revelation when it talks about Virgo and it talks about the lion. It talks about all these zodiacal deals that they don't make sense from our modern perspective. But once we're back on the nemesis ecliptic with a whole new zodiac, they're going to make a whole lot of sense. So we have 20 years removed starting in 2046. Well, that's really interesting. That's I can answer your question simply. It's just simple arithmetic. That means there's 40 years remaining. 40 years of time remaining from 2046 to the return of the chief cornerstone, the end of the monument of man, the completion of the Great Pyramid project for whatever it was built for, and the whatever this great war is for the souls of men, or to free those that are ready for Exodus, whatever's going to happen in 2106, the return of the chief cornerstone. This is the year 6000 of the old Annus Mundi system. It is not the 6,000th year of the world or the timeline, the construct, none of that. It's just a 6,000 year period that was very well known, that's mentioned in many ancient texts. So 40 years plus 2046. So however old you are in 2046, just add 40 years, because it's not 60 years. 1/3 of time is being removed. So it's 40 years to whatever age you're going to be. I'm going to be 73. I'm going to be 73 years old in 2046. So I highly doubt that I'm going to be here for that event. I do believe I will be here for the Phoenix phenomenon event. But I have done a bionumeric analysis on my own life, the cycles, the epicycles, all the things that have been going on in my life, and all my timelines seem to stop in 2043. They're just done. They're done. And I don't see anything beyond that. I don't believe I'm going to be here for 2046, the return of the Nemesis X object. I do believe I'm going to write out 2040, and I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see everything that my research has unveiled in the past 20 years. And that's probably going to be my reward. And I will be 67 years old when that happens. But 2043, I will be 70 years old. And in my own life, it has nothing to do with the year 70. It has everything to do with all the events of my life, because every major event of my life, every change of coordinates, every milestone that I reach, it's actually a part of a pattern of cycles and epicycles, and they can be measured. We all have them in our life. I'm just able to measure mine with great precision because I kept a journal, and I have a video on YouTube called Your Bionumeric Life, and I show my prison journal. It's like 11 pages in small print showing the exact date. I experienced so many things. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about major cases, prosecution, getting arrested, going from one prison to another, going to prison riots, going to solitary, ACR, administrative cell confinement, going to closed custody, maximum security, going through getting my first book published, second book published, third book published, fourth book published. All the different things I went through in prison, they're all there, and they're all dated. And I was able to use a calculator and find all these things out and do charts on my life. And all my cycles end. Everything just comes to a terminus in 2043. So there are many people listening to my voice right now. Many people who will be alive for that. They're very young, there's no doubt, because we still have 21 years until we have 21 more years until 2046. 21 more years. So we're talking about an event 61 years from now. Of course, there's going to be people alive. Yes, there are many people listening to my voice whose sons and daughters will be here for all of that. Yeah, absolutely. 61 more years. Till the end of the timeline, return of the chief cornerstone, when basically the light overcomes the darkness for about a 72-year period of time, and where everybody in the world who did not make Exodus is actually taught by the teacher. And for a 72-year period, this teacher will divulge to the entire world everything they need to know, all the teachings, all the histories, everything, why they're here, all that stuff. And then in the year 2178, the immortal loop number, the entire timeline with everybody who is presently here and did not make Exodus goes right back to Genesis, goes right back to the beginning to start this sim all over again through all these historical life sims, through all these periods. And looking back, all the myths and traditions and pseudo histories and weird things that people believe, all that stuff that they're going to be writing down on cuneiform or writing down on ancient, and it's going to be preserved in ancient legends, that thousands of years later, people like us will be looking back then at what they believed, not even knowing that these people developed most of that from the teachings of the chief cornerstone that was done right before total systemic reset. Remember, we're on a loop. We're on a loop. I'm always telling you that great pyramid that we know of and that we study that's sitting in northern Egypt right now, that's the largest machine the world has ever seen. Yeah, it's in the past in the programming, but we really haven't built it yet. We're heading that way now. We're going to build it. And when we're going to build it, we're going to activate it, and all the stuff loops back and it all starts over again. It is an eternal loop. Like I say all the time, you're not here to save the world, because the world is a construct. You're here to pass through it. Stop it, Bella. Such a jealous dog. She hears my voice, but she can't get in here. So she'll sit here and beat on the door. Such a jealous little pit. All right. So, to answer your question, yes, John Matthews. 61 years from now, there's going to be a lot of people alive. Brian Totten, do you believe spirit possession, spirit attachment, etc. is a program within the construct to keep souls trapped inside? Okay, it's been a long time since I talked about this. A lot of people don't want to hear it. Would my moderators please post? I'm going to tell you now, some of you are not going to want to watch this video. And I'm not trying to blow the video up. I'm just telling you what I reveal in this video is so disturbing. It has really disturbed a lot of people. But it's what I believe based off a lifetime of evidence. I have a video called The Origin of Demons. And in that video, I explained that because we're in a simulation, because we're in a mathematical, codified, computerized type matrix, we're here. It says it changes what jinn are. It changes the genie. It changes the ghost. It changes everything in the paranormal. It changes the disembodied spirit. It changes what a demon is. All of our frames of reference are through the filter of an avatar attached to the construct. But when we process what you just asked me, do you believe in spirit possession? Do you believe in spirit attachment? Is it a program within the construct to keep souls trapped inside? This is what you asked me. And the answer is that yes, I believe in disembodied spirits. I believe in demons. I believe in jinn, because these are nothing but frames of reference for a single phenomenon. And that phenomenon is that I am an immortal being. I'm temporarily using an avatar that belongs to the construct. But there's nowhere in the rules that says there aren't other immortal intelligences that are just like me trapped in this construct, because for some reason, they are unable to inhabit an avatar. And if this is an artificial construct and we are actually intelligences that reside outside of this artificial medium, then that means that we are on the outside of the construct, and that some of us may have done something harrowing for whatever reason. Or maybe it was a judgment. Maybe you can be prosecuted for things that you do in here because we're being observed. And on the outside, this entire experience is only 18 or 19 minutes. But in here, you live through 18 life sims over a period of 15 centuries. And maybe somebody decided that until the next Exodus point, you shouldn't be given another avatar for whatever reason. And they pulled the plug. And that silver cord was pulled. The avatar returns to the construct, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. The avatar disintegrates back into core programming, leaving that intelligence bereft of a vehicle to pass through a mathematical construct. To that to that intelligence that's been trapped here, it no longer has the benefit of the central nervous system. Therefore, it's stuck in a mathematical construct, able to communicate only with those that come into proximity to it, because it doesn't have an avatar jacked into a central nervous system that has optics, audio, olfactory, touch, hearing. It doesn't have any of that. What is it? Taste, touch, hearing, smell, and sound. Doesn't have any of that. It's stuck in a world of absolute silence in a mathematical construct and has no clue how to move around and how to do anything. It can't. It doesn't have an avatar. But when we approach it, the haunted house, the haunted wood, or whatever, when we approach it, because it's no different than us, there is limited communication, but to us it translates as terror because it's something we don't understand, because it's being processed through the filters of an avatar. So we don't understand what it is trying to communicate to us, and it comes out darkly. Origin of Demons. Someone can provide that link in there. That's the best answer I can give you. Nita Tarbush. God tested Abraham by telling him to sacrifice Isaac. That sounds like something AIX would do. So which God made the covenant with Abraham, AIX or Source? I asked because you said the covenant applies to us, the Israelites. Absolutely. I believe that there are two covenants in the Old Testament, and one of them is very specific in the book of Genesis. I don't care about the Jewish version that's all Jewish rewritten BS about God appearing and testing Abraham, and you got to sacrifice your son. And yeah, this is the scapegoat. This is a fundamental tenet of Jewish culture. It's the scapegoat phenomenon, and this is what it starts. Human sacrifice was all about scapegoating. Yeah, everybody in the community, lay your hand on the victim. The victim's not even protesting, so it's a willing sacrifice. It has to be a willing sacrifice. The people don't know what the priest did. The priest applied jellyfish venom. So the person's not fighting back and not scared of the dagger because they're paralyzed. They can't do nothing. And everybody for a whole day, and the whole community comes forward. It might take 2 or 3 days. Everybody comes and lays hands on the scapegoat and confesses what they're guilty of, and they become absolved only if the sacrifice is met. This is the ancient institution of human sacrifice. This is where scapegoating came from. And they lay hands on the victim. The victim's on the altar. The priests are going to sacrifice when the whole community is satisfied. They're done. Everybody has confessed their sins and laid hands, and they transferred their deeds, thoughts, wickedness, whatever, their trespasses to the victim. Then the victim, still alive, willingly dies. That's the key. That's why the poison was used, the venom. Because if the people see that a victim is struggling, it cancels out the scapegoat deal. It means the sins of the people fall back onto them. They weren't carried out by the scapegoat. So anyway, it's just scapegoat crap, this whole story. The core essence of the Old Testament found in Genesis is a series of prophecies and promises made to Abraham, who, when these were made, wasn't a Jewish patriarch. Abraham was Brahma. His wife was Sarah. Brahma was Saraswati. This was an Aryan institution. So that's what Brahma and Saraswati came from. The promises are very interesting, because they're very, very different than a whole series of promises that were given by God in Exodus. In the book of Exodus, we have a whole new narrative. We have a whole new God. We have a whole new people. And all of a sudden, we have all new promises, which are threats. All the way down the list. Whole bunch of threats. You didn't get that in Genesis. In Genesis, you got a bunch of promises about what the seed of Brahma was going to be like, what they were going to do, how they're going to fill up the world, all the seeds, how when they're acting right, this is what God is going to do for them. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful series of promises. But in the book of Exodus, we have almost an entirely different Bible. It's almost as if the book of Genesis and the book of Revelation are the only two real parts of the Bible. Everything else in between is filler. The book of Exodus begins Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and we have a demon popping out of a burning bush and commanding Moses, and then making promises to Moses that if his people will do these things, that he's going to do all these things. But when you read those promises, it's all carnal. Every single thing that God is going to do for them, everything Yahweh is going to do for his people, has everything to do with receiving the world as an inheritance, not heaven, receiving other humans as slaves, not brothers, not sons of adoption and sisters of adoption, has everything to do with acquiring the food and wealth and respect of the world, has nothing to do. The word heaven, the afterlife, is nowhere in the doctrine of Yahweh. Nowhere in the doctrine of Moses is an afterlife ever promised. Yeah, process that. So, so crazy. And I already know, so some of you that really know your Bibles already thought of an argument against that, but I'm going to quash it right now. Because the text that you want to cite is the book of Job, where Job says that even after he dies and worms can consume his flesh, yet in my flesh I shall see God. Yeah, that's the one passage that implies an afterlife. And the Jews stole that text from the Sabbateans. The book of Job is considered by scholarship the oldest book of the Bible, and it's the only one that's not Jewish. Yep. Book of Job, where God is called Shaddai, the shadow of AIX. Even spelled that way, Shad AIX, Shaddai. Oh, Andrew Owino, what are you doing here, bro? Oh man, send me a question, Andrew. I'm not bringing anybody on the screen today. It takes too much to get all these links together. I'm gonna do that on another live. I've already been going an hour and 50 minutes. Send me your write down your question, Andrew. So I don't know how to say your name, dude. Oh, I be winning. AOL.com. I be winning. All right, Jason. I'm confused by your referencing Jews interacting with Jesus, since if I understand correctly, you document the Catholic Church creating Jesus as a mythological figure. Now, Dr. David Martin also alluded to a 5th to 7th century or so pope claiming that the Catholic Church had created the mythological figure Jesus, patterning him after an actual historical figure. Well, I mean, that's my whole point. First of all, if I'm going to be truthful, and I'm going to tell you exactly what the New Testament says. So the New Testament is accepted by millions of people today as an accurate historical record. So that's why I started this video with that, talking about the Jews and how they reacted to Jesus, because it's right there in the New Testament that we have today. That's it. However, if you want to know the true origin of Jesus, then it's not going to be in a record that was written 200 years after the crucifixion, because that's what we have with the Gospel of Marcion, which is the very first record of a Jesus, period. No statues, no reliefs, no mosaics. We don't have anything. And if you don't think portraits, painted lifelike portraits, are exact, you need to go and check out my prior videos where I show about 50 portraits from North Egypt of people from 100 BC, where they're absolutely lifelike. They could paint anything back then. They painted absolute. These are like ossuaries, funerary portraits, but they were painting people exactly how they looked, even 100 years BC. So the absence of any physical evidence whatsoever of Jesus until the 6th and 7th century AD is very condemning. However, Jesus is a soup made of all the best ingredients. So I know a lot of people want to believe in Jesus, and that's fine. But the first time we have any of the sayings of Jesus is the Gospel of Marcion, 200 years after the alleged crucifixion. Then we have the Apostle Paul, and I can't get into it here, but I have whole videos about the Apostle Paul didn't even know Jesus, didn't know a single thing, never quoted him, never cited a miracle, knew nothing about his childhood, nothing. And yet the letters of Paul were all attached to the New Testament, to the gospel narratives, as if there was some type of crossover, and they're not. And even many of the things that Paul taught are totally anti-gospel. That's not the doctrine of Jesus. Then we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And two of those men didn't even know Jesus, but you're told they are. You're told that the four gospels are the four witnesses. They're not. Two of those men never even met Jesus. Yeah, I think one of those men wasn't even alive when Jesus was alive. Well, two of them weren't even alive when Jesus was alive. But the four gospel writers, two of them never met Jesus. And an exegetical analysis of the four gospels absolutely proves that they came from one parent source, which scholarship calls the Q document. And the Q document and the Gospel of Marcion together basically give you your Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John version with a whole bunch of historical anachronistic embellishments that don't belong. Many scholars have isolated all the things that were completely wrong about governors and different times. There's just so many anachronisms that are in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So you have to go to you're not really asking me that. You're asking me, you're confused by the referencing. I'm simply referencing the New Testament as it exists today. My personal opinion, you want that? I believe Jesus is a fiction who is based off some facts. There was a Jesus in the Bar Kokhba rebellion who prophesied for 7 years that Jerusalem was going to fall. This was 126 to 133 AD. Right before the Romans destroyed Jerusalem in the Bar Kokhba rebellion. So there was a Jesus then in the historical record. There was another Jesus in the apocryphal text who was opposed by a Judas. But it was a different scenario. It was a religious argument. Then we have Apollonius of Tyana, who performed miracles. And that some church fathers even said Jesus was modeled after Apollonius of Tyana. Apollonius of Tyana is in the historical record at the same time period. So yes, then we have the religion of Mithras, the crucified God, the Son of the Son. Yeah, the Alpha and Omega, the one the Roman legionnaires worshipped. Yeah, this was the major problem with Rome. Their soldiers and legionnaires were followers of Mithras. And the only thing different about Mithras and Jesus is the name. So, yeah, Jesus is a soup made of all the best ingredients, but it took over 500 years of eliminating historical references. They had to do it centuries after the scholarship of the day, because you have Porphyry and Plotinus and others that were writing that the Christians are making all this shit up. None of this shit happened. These are scholars of the day talking about this. But like I said, I digress. That's not what you're asking me. So but yeah, I don't know why you're confused. All I'm citing is the New Testament as it stands today. I don't know who Dr. David Martin is, but I don't know about the fifth or 7th century Pope, but I do know that you might be trying to remember Pope Leo. Pope Leo the 10th or Pope Leo the 11th, wasn't he the one that said that how prosperous hath this myth of the Christ benefited us? Yeah, he's in the historical record saying that, but that was the 10th century AD, 10th or 11th. Okay, Tiffany Early. Hello, Tiffany. Do you think Danzig knew about the Phoenix? I know it's not a deep question, but I wonder that every time I hear the Misfits song, We Are 138, and it makes me wonder how many people knew about it. Well, shoot, Peter Gabriel knew about it. Listen to the song Red Rain. A lot of music artists talk about the Phoenix phenomenon. A lot. There are different movies that really, really resonate with us on a dark level. It's because the truth they visually convey, even though the details are different. One of them is War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. When you see the aliens and the whole world covered in red. The whole world's covered in red. That's Phoenix phenomenon, that red fallout from the sky. Some of you have followed my advice and just watched a movie from the 80s. It's a Phoenix phenomenon movie for real. It's called Night of the Comet. Same thing. whole populations just vanished when something appeared in the sky. Whole populations just vanished. Their clothes and belongings and piles of red dust were left everywhere. There's a bunch of movies that, I have a video somewhere that mentions a lot of the movies that are all Phoenix phenomenon related. I don't know, Tiffany, because I don't know what song you're talking about with Danzig. I don't know. All right, private sojourner, a limited liability company. Well, my answer is going to have to be limited liability. As a homeschooling mother to a teenager with Down syndrome, what can I help him comprehend to get the best out of life? Thank you. I have talked about autism and I've talked about Down syndrome before. I don't talk about these much because I'm not in the medical field. I'm not someone to give advice on these things. But my personal opinion is that the central nervous system has been damaged because the avatar is not synced correctly with the environment. And it doesn't mean they're less intelligent at all. It doesn't mean they're subhuman at all. These are immortal beings just like us. These are intelligences just like us that for whatever reason the central nervous system hasn't perfectly bridged spirit with matter. And this is what we get, autism, and this is what we get, Down syndrome. But these are not, when you're caring for these individuals, they're not in a normal situation. So I would never promote the idea that they need to be educated through normal channels or they need to live a normal life. Everything about them is different. It's going to be situational. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know how acute this is, but I do know, and I don't mean to get really, really religious or spiritual with you, but I do know that when it comes to this level of caring for another soul, these are the things that you need to be tapped into source about. These are the things that you need to basically get real honest with the oversoul, like I've done in the past. I've told you guys in the past, yeah, I've been up against incredible odds before in the past, and I was at the point of giving up where I just finally just say, F it. And I just cuss out the oversoul. Me and God just have it out. And I just say, I'm done, man. If you want me to continue on this trajectory, then you're going to make it known real damn fast that that's what you want me to do, or I'm done. And then something happens in my life and I realize, damn, I may have overreacted. You need to come to that point in your life. And you just say, talk to the oversoul. Say, hey, you need to do something that shows me what I need to do for this soul right here that can't do for themselves. You need to have that breaking moment with source, because I'm going to tell you now, source is going to respond. You're connected to source. I know you're connected to source because you wouldn't be listening to me right now if you weren't. You're jacked in to an avatar going through a mathematical construct, but at any given time, the very fact that you're still in this experience, you are moored to source. So I would take advantage of that. Source is always there and it's always silent because we never confer with it, ever. So you need to. Okay, so Dennis Gilmore. Dennis Gilmore, you've gotten under my skin so many times, but I'm going to answer this question. I don't even know what it is. Your deep research into history, chronology has you believing there is no evidence for a missing 1,000 years. You admit our history is too mathematically perfect to be real. You say we are living in a simulated construct, and yet you insist 1,000 years cannot be missing from a fake timeline. Absolutely. I still insist that. Doesn't seem logical to me. Fake timelines are fake timelines and could easily be manipulated. Listen, man, all that's good. Your opinion will have merit when you demonstrate this. Show it to me, because I'm always showing my community all these charts, and it doesn't matter what calendar it is. These cross-calendrical parallels could not exist at all and be so mathematically perfect if there was even one single year missing from the timeline. Simple as that. It's 5919 Annus Mundi right now. And if it wasn't 5919 Annus Mundi, there is no way I could have ever done these phi and pi calendrical associations, calendrical isometrics, cross calendrical parallels, and all these things that I have shown. If only 1 year was missing, it would have thrown off everything. If 1 year was missing, the 138-year sequencing of the Phoenix phenomenon wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. The 792-year periodicity of the Nemesis X object wouldn't work. The 395.4 year of the dark satellite, it wouldn't work. So you need to go ahead and show some evidence that the 1,000 missing years of history or whatever is true, because I've gone through the arguments and I'm just not cool with the fact that a simple mistake, I mean, this is a hell of a mistake to make. And yet it was the core proof of all these people talking about a missing 1,000 years. The very fact that there's 4 monuments and 3 coins that show in the historical record the small letter I is put in front of 3 digits. And you guys tried to convince me and a whole bunch of others that this is proof that 1,000 years is missing. When I found modern coins that show that exact same thing in Ireland for a celebration, and the I was being used to show the designation 1,000, and then and then 988 for the year 1988. Not only that, but then I find in a book from the 1700s, the switch, 1752, is when they switched from Julian reckoning to Gregorian reckoning in the publishing world. And publishers didn't really know how to do the switch. So what they did is they put a letter I in front of a Julian date. So readers and researchers that were using the new Gregorian system would know that this is not a Gregorian date, it's Julian reckoning. Well, your whole 1,000-year theory just went out the window because that was your core evidence, the I in front of all these days. And all it does is distinguish in publishing the difference between Julian and Gregorian reckoning. Trash, shoddy research in the YouTube community got millions of people believing some bullshit. But we can shelf that. And we can go simply to the fact that until you do a chronological analysis showing side by side the Frankish annals, the Anglo-Saxon annals, the annals of Magdeburg, what do we have? We got Anglo-Saxon, Frankish, and the Nuremberg Chronicles. If you'll take all 4 of those on a column and look year by year, we have unbroken 17 centuries of history. Until you can undo that and disentangle the other Korean chronology, the Chinese chronology, where is this 1,000 years that was just invented? I agree. 1,000 years may have been rewritten. We've already seen what the Bolsheviks could do. I agree history can be rewritten. Even 1,000 years could be rewritten. But there's always going to be trace elements. You can't cover up everything. And every civilization in every country in the world isn't on board with your conspiracy. So you would have to involve the entire world in the conspiracy in order to hide 1,000 years or to create 1,000 years where it didn't exist. But I don't need any of these evidences and proofs, because when I take a calculator and I show events happening in proportions of 1.618 and 3.1416 going forward and backward in time, and then I show that these cross-calendrical parallels, when you put them together, how they work so perfectly, none of these archaic chronological analytical systems would ever work if even 1 year was off in the calendar. You have a huge bed to make before you accuse me of having inaccurate data. Yeah. Besides, you and I got history. Yeah, your hubris should have had me just totally, absolutely ignoring your comment. I had to block you on Facebook, I had to block you on Twitter, I've had to block you on YouTube. I said, you got it here on an email, and you're lucky I even dignified your answer. So Brian Stelling, oh, by the way, I'm going to deal with, I just haven't had time, but I'm going to deal with this, this new rising theory that's taking the ranks, talking about we're in Satan's little season, the 1,000 years of dark. Yeah, I'm going to completely dismantle that poppycock, because that's exactly what it is. Totally. Believe me, I'm telling you guys, I'm not dumb. I know intelligence agencies are out there spinning all these yarns and releasing all in the community. And I know they have a problem with me. And I believe that almost every one of my meetups, I meet more and more of these agents, and they introduce themselves, and they're not who they say they are. And I come into contact with them all the time. It's just, you know what? I just don't care. I just don't care. I'm a man on a mission. Simple as that. And I'm going to keep doing it. And you can disagree with me all you want, but I'm going to tell you now, it's all rhetoric if you can't show applications. Yeah. If all you do is just question, but you can't show applications as to why something could be wrong, then it's just rhetoric. That's all it is. Brian Stelling. Oh, I have listened to a couple interviews where you brought up the reset before 1902. What happened in 1890? Oh, you mentioned there were possibly multiple timelines occurring during the 1800s. Is everything before then background programming? Could you expound upon this? Well, first of all, humans don't live beyond 120 years. But for every rule, there's always an exception. We have like Nebuchadnezzar II's mother. In the historical record, in the cuneiform, we find out, damn, this woman lived to like 147, if it's even true. But this was written 25 centuries ago. Basically, no one lives over 120 years. There's always exceptions to a rule. That's what strengthens a rule. The very fact that there is a small minority that always defy a rule actually gives the rule strength. So, the Phoenix phenomenon is every 138 years. Maybe that's by design. I don't know. I have no idea. 1890 was very unusual. 1890 seems to be a precursor for what happened 12 years later in 1902. But 1890 is exactly 108 years after 1998. 1998 is 666 times 3. 1998 is the key epicentral isometric date for many events going forward and backward in time. It allows us to even date things like the first seal, second seal, third seal, fourth seal, Phoenix phenomenon. You could date when Trump became president using 1998. We could have easily predicted, if we knew what we were looking for at the time, we could have easily predicted the whole 9/11 deal, September 11th, 2001, with the holographic planes hitting the buildings in New York. And I've showed many examples of why this is true. Even Edgar Casey said something about, if you want to know the key to the future, you'd have to understand 1998. I've even quoted that passage. 1998 is very interesting. 108 years after 1890. 1890 over the northern United States, hundreds of thousands, maybe even 500,000 or so people looked up into the sky and saw what appeared to be a city floating in the sky in 1890. But 1890 is just a holographic reflection of 2106, which is 108 years after 1998. So 108 years after this floating city is seen in the sky over North America, we have 1998, which is the pivotal year, the isometric epicentral year. And 108 years after that is 2106 AD, the return of the chief cornerstone, which in the book of Revelation says a city will descend from the heavens called New Jerusalem. Now, I don't believe in the original records it was ever called Jerusalem. But that's what it's called now in the redacted version that we have today. So this 1890 was very unusual. I believe the Census Bureau started that year too. But it's also when I have a whole list of things for 1890. But 1890, I kind of have the idea, because of how unusual 1890, 91, 92, and 93 are, and the events leading up to 1902, and then the Jewish takeover of the United States in 1901 and 1902, the removal of McKinley replaced by a Jewish president, all this stuff. I honestly believe that, and you're going to have to watch several presentations to put the whole picture together, but without giving too much away. Every time the Phoenix phenomenon is about to happen, this is in my very first YouTube video ever. The whole theme was how the elite hide underground in subterranean fortresses and cities, and they have all these libraries, they have all these antiques and collectibles, they have all these things that they cherish. They remove from the surface world because it takes years to remove all this stuff, and they provide fakes and all that stuff on the surface world because they never know what parts of the surface world are going to be destroyed. 1890, they bed down, and they begin bedding down in the underworld in their facilities. More and more of the international elite power structure is removed from 1890 to 1901, when they finally just all hide and they're gone. That's when a third group saw their opportunity. They seized the opportunity right then and there to make their move, and they literally became the third major group of the elite. They did not hide for the Phoenix phenomenon. They stayed on the surface and they made their move. And we know this in the historical record as the Democratic Bolshevik invasion and insurrection of Russia, where literally in the end, after 20 years, 60 million white Christian Russians were basically starved and tortured to death to build military facilities that became the Jewish-controlled USSR, the Soviet Union, which began a Cold War after World War I and World War II, and then began a Cold War. And this is that's what I see 1890. The period between the 12 years between 1890 and 1901, 1902 was the older elite power structures bedding down, just like I showed you in all the alchemical treatises. Look, they flaunt it to us. This is what they're doing. Leaving people on the surface. They're hiding in the underworld, having their parties, having their banquets, doing all these things while chaos erupts on the surface. And they're in multiple facilities. And this is also why on these key 138-year dates, we have all these new inventions. Industrial revolution. All of a sudden, monarchies are all collapsing and they're all democracies and republics. At the same time, the spinning jenny comes out and revolutionizes how to feed people. And all in 1902, all these things were invented all the exact same time. All the things that you find in your kitchen today, all these appliances, even in your household, like the air conditioner, all of a sudden just appeared in 1902. Yeah, it's because they came back up. But by the time the elite came back up this time, they weren't the only elite anymore. That's all I can say about this right now. I don't know the true meaning of the swastika symbol. I only know what you know. You would have to. Robert Seffer was probably somebody who give you a lot more information on the swastika symbol. It wasn't German. It was a spiritual symbol. It was a broken sun wheel, and it antedates. The swastika is found on monuments that antedate the Christian period. So they may go back to the Nemesis ecliptic, but they're sure as hell dated sometime after the 8th century AD, when Earth became on the soul, the Apollo ecliptic. So I don't know. Yeah, you need to ask. I believe it's a solar symbol. It could have other applications. So that's the swastika symbol. What am I doing? 2 hours and 17 minutes. All right. Andrew, did you ever put your question in here? Did you ever pop back in here, Andrew, and write your question down? Grindel Dark. I got material to share with you and questions for this weekend. Let me know if Saturday or Sunday is good. Okay, man. What What is today? Yeah, man. Grindle, if you want to come over here, let me know. I'll be here Saturday and Sunday, man. Hell yeah. You can come over here and kick it and peruse the library. Just hit me up again. So I'm looking at. No, I don't see Andrew. Andrew never came back in here. Lower class citizen. Man, I've been seeing you for almost 4 years on this channel. Lower class citizen. Do you have a theory on what and where the chief cornerstone might be? Could it be the anomaly at the Bermuda Triangle? No, I don't. I think it's more metaphorical for the actual architect. I mean, if you build a construction, no matter what the building materials actually are, if you build a construction and then others come into your construction, but they're not the builders, they don't know the secrets. And they don't even know that they themselves are made up of some of the building materials for the construct itself. Therefore, they can never see the construct objectively. It will always be from a subjective frame of reference. If you're the architect, then it's going to be your presence that's required to help them get out and make their exit from the very construct that you built. You would have all the secrets. You would know the ingress egress points, well, where they were located in space and where they were located in time. Your presence would be necessary for the occupants of your building to be able to get out of your building. The chief cornerstone is a metaphor for a key, and that key is a personality that built this place. The Great Pyramid is just a stone lithic. It's a lithic metaphor. It's prophecy in stone. Prophecy is programming. Does the idea we are in a simulation, a programmed reality, run contrary to the belief of a spirit world or dimension outside of the material world? The only people who will ever think that a simulated world would be something demonic or not spiritual are those who are pushing a religious paradigm. They're the only ones. Because my community of intelligent, free-thinking individuals can easily process that this is an artificial mathematical construct, and at the same time, they are immortal. They are an immortal being borrowing a piece of the construct called our avatar and flowing and passing through it. They have no problem processing this information. The Archaix model is actually the removal of everything down to its lowest common denominators. There is no conflict here that we are immortal spiritual beings and that this isn't a real world, this predator-prey versus ecosphere. This is a world of Maya, of mathematical illusion that makes us believe that it's real because it's a subjective experience through the filters of an avatar that's made of the very same constructions as the construct itself. Which means the only thing really real here is you. Yeah. I think the only people that have a problem with the simulation are religionists. SWM 75. Is that single white male 75? Templars, Hebrews, and David Icke. What happened to the Templars? They became pirates, then what? From the books, what happened with the Torah and the Talmud and the formation this is in the formation of the Sabbateans. All right, what's your take on David Icke and his current views about elites? I don't really follow David Icke anymore. I don't. I just don't. He's got his world, I got mine. You know what I mean? I thought he was done with the reptilian shape changer deals. Then he went back on it for a little while, and then that's kind of a turn off to me, but it's no big deal. It's no big deal. I mean, he's got spiritual material that is amazing. I've cited it. I've given David Icke his props where I believe he deserved them. He's good. He's a good author. He's part of, in the 90s, he kind of woke me up. He wasn't the only one. There were several other authors, but he was one of them. Children of the Matrix was my first book. But the first of his books I read. But I don't know what his current views on elites are. Have they changed? I don't know. He believed that there were reptilian shape changers at one time. So is he still holding to that view? Is that what you're referring to? I don't know. You can tell me in the comment section right now. I just don't know. David Icke and I may have different viewpoints and different all kinds of things, but you know what? I think we run parallel pretty much on a whole bunch of things. I'm gonna say this. You'll have to correct me. I don't know. But I'm not quiet. I am not quiet about Jewish involvement in history and how the Jews became one of the three ruling groups of elites in the world. I'm not quiet about it, especially on Archaix TV. But here on YouTube, I sanitize it a little bit more. But I don't deal in pronouns. I don't deal in people who are in power right now. I talk about concepts. I talk about cultures, how they developed and how they became who they are today. But it's not really my core message. These are all ancillary to the historical details I'm always providing. They're not my core message. I could care less what those people do. They don't affect me at all whatsoever. So I don't know. It seems like David Icke is very quiet about them. You can correct me, and I totally apologize to the man if I'm wrong. But it seems to me that the litmus test in the truther community, at least, is that anybody scared to talk about these people and what they've done to get where they are today, then is probably controlled opposition, or two, they're just trying to protect the integrity of their income, which is social media. And I respect that. I get that. No big deal. I've been working hard all my life, in prison and out of prison. And if I lose this channel, so be it. So be it. I'm not going to put a muzzle on my mouth just to maintain a social media account. Man, F that. I don't care. I can go to Archaix TV and I know at least 20,000 people will come and they can listen to me rant over there. So, you know what? It's no big deal. But yeah, I don't know much about David Icke. The only thing that turns me off about David Icke is Soul Trap. I'm not with it. I'm not trying to hear it. There is no way you will ever get me to agree that the loving oversoul that I have come to know, that allowed me to survive 26 years in Texas prison, never would that oversoul ever create a situation where you are going to be helpless in anything. I'm not trying to hear that. None of this is real. Death isn't to be feared. Death is the gate of the holy. I am never going to buy Soul Trap. That's some BS, toxic, anti-God, God-hating doctrine. I'm not trying to hear it. No. No, sir. Other than that, shit, I can sit down and have a beer with him. Okay. Harley Sheffer. Hey, Jason. Do you think psychosis is a prerequisite for an errant, as in this type of suffering crucial for an awakening? I'm going to answer that, Harley. I'm going to say that suffering does wake up some souls. Other souls don't require it. Other souls just don't require it. Suffering didn't wake me up. I don't know. I mean, suffering comes in all different forms, especially if your avatar is not working properly and you're bedridden, you have some type of disease. I get all that. But it's suffering for me came through long-term imprisonment and all the harsh conditions that came under that. And you know what? That didn't wake me up. Getting beat up, getting lynched, being in riots, being chased with a knife, having my face kicked in, none of that woke me up. None of that. Yeah, going to prison didn't wake me up. Going to maximum security didn't wake me up. Having officers beat the hell out of me with sticks and throw me in solitary confinement didn't wake me up. But what woke me up was reading so much material and being intelligent enough to know that everything that I had been raised as a Christian is completely contrary to information I'm now taking in that makes sense. My awakening happened, I almost quoted Mr. Duke. My awakening almost happened. Happened because I could no longer shelve new information because of past programming. My Southern Baptist indoctrination had been overwritten with new data I could no longer ignore. I've told my community in the past, when I broke free from Christianity for about 6-7 months, I went to a real dark place. And it's a good thing that I was still in prison. But when I came out of it the man you're listening to today. I'm able to put everything in its proper perspective and everything where it goes, where everything fits now. Yeah, but it took 7 months. I was unhinged when I realized, because I had taken my discouragement to a whole nother level. For some reason, I translated that, oh my God, the Bible isn't true. Therefore, it can't be the word of God. The Bible is full of falsehood. I took that to a whole nother level of, is there even a God? It took about 7 months for me to come out of it. And I came out strong from that darkness. I walked through that valley. Yeah, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I came out an immortal, absolutely fearless, because the freedom that now just filled my soul when I realized it took 7 months for that freedom to hit me. But when it hit me, it washed all that away. And I realized now I'm free, and that Christianity had condemned me, and that it had me believing I was guilty for things for which I have never done. It had me believing that my soul was tainted for something I had no control of, and that was just being born. I was born in sin. I was wretched, and forever I was going to have to beg God for the very forgiveness for things, for trespasses I had never made. That toxic, religious, Babylonian Christianity had perverted my frames of reference, my way of thinking. When I came out of that, I came out strong, immortal, and I've had many people get in my face and feel that immortality. I'm not going to give you any particulars, but I'm telling you, when you need it, that immortalness will come out of you like a fire, and it will overcome any obstacle in your way. And Christianity could never do that for you, because it's restrictive and because it's self-condemning. It's terrible. It's a toxin. Chris Crawford. What if Trinity didn't know about the bug and gave Neo the red pill? Then, once he woke up in the real world, the machines decided to leave him in his pod. What options would Neo have? I have no idea, man. Why are we talking about a movie? What if Trinity didn't know about the bug? Yeah, that's too much for me to do. I'm going to move on. I'm going to need something simpler, or I'm going to need you to get to the point. Or is this a trap question? I don't even know. I have no idea. Because just because I'm a simulationist, there is no correlate between me and the Matrix. And I've gone through this many, many times. The Matrix movie completely changes. It's the David Icke version. It's the soul trap shit, except it's your avatar that's trapped, and they're using your avatar as a battery. And I'm gonna tell you now, those two Jews that rewrote that whole deal to create the Matrix version of the movie, that's not in the original. The original manuscript did not have machines using human avatars as a battery. It was using human brain power to create create an increase in CPU, in processing power. They had changed that. But yeah, I don't believe in that version. The simulation, the Matrix, I don't associate with the Matrix as this is some type of spiritual technology that we're in. And we're not even in the good part of it. We're in the photonegative part. We're in the anti-arithmetic part. And we're moored to a part that is real, but we're not in it. We're not experiencing it. All right, so Chris sent a bunch of questions. There's 5 or 6 of them here. What language did we speak before the Tower of Babel? Was it like telepathy? Okay, I don't know. But I do know this. On Twitter, on Facebook, and on right here on my channel, I have a video somewhere on my channel of a list of about 30 different traditions from all over the world, all different time periods, different languages that all talk about in the beginning there was a divine speech. And that the gods changed it, and there's all kinds of variants to the story. It was after the flood. It was a Tower of Babel. There's all kinds of variants to the story. People scattered all everywhere. I mean, it's even in the Sibylline oracles. So the story, I don't know what language it was before, but I know damn well it wasn't Hebrew, because that's one of the myths. Okay, how do you advise people process reading complex academically written information if they're not used to this but still want to attain the information? Has reading technical information as such always come natural to you? No, I had to wrestle through it too. I read this book in prison. I read Forbidden Archaeology in prison. Oh my God, this book is highly technical. Forbidden Archaeology is a fantastic book. Yeah, man, this is Michael Cremo. I think it's Richard Tompkins. Richard Thompson. Yeah, small print, highly technical. But if you want something, you're going to do it. It's simple as that. Also, I get it. You're in the free world. I was in prison. It was a different situation. I had the time to sit there and do these things. Out here in the free world, time is very different. We have so many obligations, so many things that require our attention. But I'm not really a speed reader. I just retain everything that's interesting to me. So yeah, I'm gonna wrestle through these highly technical treatises and monographs just like you do. Do I read very well? Yeah, I can thank my mom for that. I've already told you guys the story. Libraries and church was my whole way of life before I went to prison. Okay, could it be that the 1,000-year overlap of flamenco has some relation to calendrical isometrics, or did he just totally miss the target? I think that flamenco has some pretty compelling material, for at least the stuff that I looked at. However, some of it goes straight into like Mad Magazine version of history. Talking about biblical characters were actually, in the 1100s, 1200s, and 1300s. Yes, now I'm not trying to hear any of that shit. It is so, it's just so weird. You know what? Flamenco, I wish he spoke perfect English and would do a series of YouTube videos that would give us the basics of his theory and show us all the evidence. But yeah, this whole idea of 1,000 years, it's not easy it's easy to rewrite 1,000 years. It's not easy to lose them. There's too many calendrical systems. There's too many historical annals and records and overlaps all over the world for any one person to come and say, hey man, this 1,000 years didn't exist. Check this out. And yeah, you're not going to do that. You're not going to convince me. You're not. There's too many methods and calendrics that I have taught my community that you can verify what year we're in. Yeah, these things are awesome how they work. And yeah, 1,000 years can't be done. Like I said, I have hundreds of calendrical examples all throughout, maybe thousands, all throughout the Archaix research. And if I was 1 year off, none of them would work. Let's see. Did moon worship coincide with matriarchy prior to the vapor canopy and the appearance of the sun worship? Yes, that's a new person's question. Absolutely. Antediluvian world was on a whole nother ecliptic plane. It was on the Nemesis ecliptic, vapor canopy, matriarchy. All this has been ad nauseum. This is supposed to be an advanced Archaix deal. Couldn't tell you. A lot of these questions you need to go to my Phoenix Phenomenon playlist. These are like remedial questions, man. Are you the one that asked the 1890, or are you just asking the same question about 1890? Okay. Your last question is pretty interesting. Can we mentally recreate something each day, or should it be imagined only once and let it go? I am not talking about anxious thinking, but about envisioning something similar on repeat each day. The repetition is similar to like your vision boards and all that, and it can be good. But as soon as repetition becomes your routine, and this is firmly implanted in your mind as a necessity in order to make things come into your experience, then it's always going to be required. I believe that there are many different formulas to get to the same thing. Just like I tell you all the time, if something is true, we will always be able to see it from multiple different vantage points. Well, if that's true, then it also means if there is something to be experienced, such as an acquisition or a feeling or a contact, if something is to be experienced, then there's going to be multiple different formulas to get to that, to get to those coordinates in our experiences. So yeah, I think you can do that, but I also think you're going to get to the point where you can imagine something that you want to experience and then be so confident that it's going to happen that your confidence becomes an energy that just projects that straight into the field while you take your avatar and your mind and you go do other things. Because the dismissal of a thought is absolute confidence. Any like dwelling on a thought is going to be the slightest amount of anxiety coming in there. And that anxiety is going to neutralize anything generative. Happens all the time. Sam Boosri. I know your name pretty well. Sam Boosri. I don't know if I pronounced it right. You got to forgive me, Sammy. Is it possible that each soul is running its own cryptographic thread through the simulacrum? Absolutely possible. It could be possible even to the point, Sammy, that each individual soul is the only thing real here. And everything that we're experiencing is nothing but a composite of the background programming that's happening around each one of the souls that are here. It's a shared background programming, but it's still amorphous. Let's see. Is it possible that each soul is running its own cryptographic thread through the simulacrum where lived experience functions as proof of consciousness, etched into some sort of spiritual blockchain? I knew you were a crypto agent. I just knew it, man. And the Phoenix acts as a system-wide consensus fork, rebooting the architecture while preserving soul state continuity. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say that I absolutely agree, and I even endorse your usage of really modern frames of reference like blockchain, a spiritual blockchain, soul state continuity, a system-wide consensus fork, architecture, cryptographic thread, proof of consciousness. Okay, this single sentence that you provided, it's very weighty, but you have a very advanced understanding of what's happening here. And the reason I'm saying this is because you're providing in modern frames of reference what has been going on since ancient times, what is happening here right now. You said it succinctly. It's very good. But the words you chose actually belie how advanced this is. And this is something I don't talk about a lot, but I have mentioned it, that this is absolute proof. Our experience here, this interactive dynamic, it's absolute proof that the construct is some type of very advanced spiritual technology. That's what it is. It's been running since ancient times, but it's very advanced in what it does. Yeah, imagine a construct that has processors that are so hyper advanced, they literally program the entire world over and over and over for every single soul here experiencing, and then sync the over programming together to where it's so perfect that it's just a rare occurrence where a glitch is detected. Some type of deja vu, Mandela effect, some type of coincidence, just something, a synchronicity. It's so rare when these things are detected, but that's how advanced this technology is. We're all living in complete, isolated, programmed worlds, and yet they're all synced together so perfectly. We're all believing that we're in the same world. I say this all the time on my channel. How many times have I said that, Sammy? You and I may be in the same world, but we're not living in the same universe. I say this all the time. That's a good one. It's a good question. I'm going to have to agree with you. Hell, I had to process that for a minute. Yeah, man. Oh my God, 2 hours and 44 minutes. Guys, I got so many more. I got one more. I'm sorry. I'm just going to deal with one more. That's my boy, Andrew Owino. He popped back in. We may have to do another live to catch all these other questions. That's a lot of questions, guys. Andrew in Africa says shame triggers the right. Absolutely. Shame is spiritual. I am more right-brained, and I find that not so balancing out. What do you think? Well, I'm going to say this. I don't know if shame has anything to do with left brain, right brain. I'm going to tell you, if you feel shame, Andrew, for different things that you have done, or if you feel guilt as soon as you do something, that's going to be evidence of a closeness to source. Yeah, man. If you can go through your day being a piece of shit and stepping on other people's feelings and on their toes, being discourteous, without manners and all that, and you can go through your day just fine and lay your head on your pillow at night, not even think about all the people that you kind of ticked off or angered or even hurt in the day, that's going to show a disconnectedness with source, almost NPC behavior. That type of individual is one that's going to get looped back because you're not ready. You're nowhere near ready for any of the things that are waiting for you outside the construct. Oh no. Remember, everything that's going to be received is an inheritance. An inheritance implies that you're a part of a divine family. It doesn't matter if you're blood-born or if you're one of the sons of daughters of adoption. It doesn't matter. Because in the world of the spirit, the two are the same. But what does matter is if you're ready. So if you're feeling shame very close to an event, which is a trespass, then it does show that you're very close to the oversoul. Because shame is spiritual, just like humor is spiritual, just like intuition, empathy, and imagination, all spiritual. Well, my pit is getting real restless. She's getting tired. She's talking about, Jason, you've been on that damn computer too long. All right, Bella. But that's it. That's too many questions. I can't finish this list, guys. I just can't. Can't possibly do it. So, if you're I'm on like all day tomorrow. I'll be on Cypher in the office. You can contact Big John like you've been doing, and he'll put you on the list and he'll forward your email to me. But that's what I'm working on right now. I do want to share Dr. Rimka's ad one more time before I go, and let you guys know, man, that we have some podcasts lined up. And Dr. Rimka joined us in the chat. How you doing? How you doing, Stephanie? So this has been a particularly long video. It had a long intro though. It was dedicated. It was a special dedication to Billy Carson. So other than that, my voice is almost back. I'm back home. I'm getting a lot of work done in between these videos. I'm supposed to be talking to Flat Earth Dave, and I don't think he's got back to me in my email yet. Also, Adam Green, Joel Perceiver, you guys know the shaman. I need to get back in contact with Alphabetic. It's been a while. I haven't heard from those boys in a long time. I just been so busy. And some others. But other than that, I will holler at you guys. And Dr. Rimka's contact information and all that is in the description box. And you're going to want to check it out.
Meant to be sick, weak, or controlled. This system was rigged to break you, but errants like us, we can change that code. If you feel it, if you know something is off, you're not crazy. You're waking up. I've spent my professional career dismantling the lies of modern medicine because your health isn't a condition, it's a code. And when you learn how to reprogram it, you break free. Your intuition, imagination, and empathy are what make you dangerous and very resilient. They don't want you to know how powerful you are, but I do. Ditch the traditional doctors. Reclaim your avatar. Escape the construct. The truth is waiting at drrimka.com.
That's a pretty cool outro. The last part that said drrimka.com, that's pretty cool how you did that little effect. I'm getting a little jealous. All these little tiny commercials you guys got. Takes me all day to do a little old. I'm at it too. Somebody's asking, is that a Chicago accent? I don't think so. So yeah, I don't have any more announcements. I'm just rambling right now, guys. We got the day after tomorrow. We got another live video. It's going to be a podcast. We'll see who it is. We'll see who our special guest is. But if you want to join us in Houston for a badass time, Friday night and all day Saturday, links in the description box. I believe it's just an email. It's just an email. Meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and hit this badass outro, and I will talk to you guys later.